A projectile ripped through the helicopter's fuel line just moments before the rocket struck. Cararissa Bennett saw a red warning light flare, heard the pilot's urgent shout, "Brace!" Then the world erupted into flames and twisted metal. The Blackhawk plummeted from the sky like a shattered plaything, crashing into the mountainside with a force that should have ended all lives aboard. Almost. When Cararissa awoke, she found herself utterly alone. 6 still forms lay around her, lifeless. Her left arm was broken, bone piercing through her skin. Her leg lay unnaturally twisted, surrounded by a pool of crimson. Through the broken cockpit glass, she saw enemy soldiers already advancing towards the wreck, guns poised. She had maybe 2 minutes before they reached her. 2 minutes to choose. Die here among the fallen, or drag herself into the dense woods, fractured bones and all, to face hostile lands alone with no hope of pickup. She chose survival. For 18 grueling hours, she dodged enemy patrols, tended her own grievous injuries with her single good hand, and pressed onward, defying wounds that should have left her helpless. She eliminated 3 enemy combatants who ventured too near. She endured on mere drops of rain and sheer determination. Finally, she reached for her radio. Her faint call was picked up by a Marine reconnaissance team, some 30 kilometers distant. A crackle, then a voice. "Vanguard 23, this is Reaper 6. We are coming for you." But their commanding officer instantly revoked the order. "Reaper 16, you are not cleared for rescue. Finish your primary mission and return to base." Staff Sergeant Mike Hendricks met the gaze of his team. 4 Marines who had just heard an American soldier losing her life in enemy lands, left behind by orders because the danger was too great on paper. Hendricks clicked off the command channel and switched his radio to Cararissa's frequency. "Vanguard 23, stay. We'll reach you in 2 hours, and when we get there, you must be ready to move, because we're escaping together." What followed became a legendary tale whispered among soldiers. A story of a wounded medic who wouldn't quit, of Marines who defied commands to save a life, and of a running firefight across hostile ground that showed some bonds are worth any sacrifice. Before we reveal how 5 Marines and 1 injured soldier fought their way through a whole enemy force, please share where you're watching from and subscribe. This account will prove that true heroes never abandon comrades, even when rescue seems impossible. Now, let's begin. 18 hours prior, the helicopter crashed violently. One moment, Cararissa Bennett was inspecting her M4 rifle inside the troop section of a Blackhawk, skimming low through a mountain pass. The next, a rocket appeared from nowhere, and everything plunged into disorder. The blast, the wild rotation, the shriek of engines ripping apart, bodies flung against walls, gear flying like missiles, a quick instant of floating before gravity slammed down with cruel, coursing force. Then the impact. Metal screamed as the helicopter struck the mountainside and flipped. Cararissa's head hit something hard. Darkness swallowed her. She awoke to ringing ears and the taste of blood. The helicopter lay on its side, smoke billowing from the engine. Through broken panes, she could glimpse tree limbs and a dull sky. The scent of jet fuel and burning wires filled her nose, blending with the metallic taste of blood. Her left arm was trapped beneath wreckage. A piece of the wall ripped loose in the crash. When she tried to shift it, searing pain ripped through her body, blurring her sight and making her stomach churn. Glancing down, she saw bone pushing through shredded skin, a complex break. Serious, her right leg was angled unnaturally, setting off alarms from her medic lesson. Not snapped, she could still feel her toes, but severely harmed. Ligaments torn, perhaps worse. Yet, she was awake. She was breathing, and that meant her duty was clear. "Speak up," she rasped, her voice a mere croak. She cleared her throat, tasted copper and tried again. Louder. "Anyone alive? Respond." Silence. The kind of silence more dreadful than any scream. Cararissa compelled herself to evaluate with a calm, professional mind. Despite the terror threatening to consume her, she was a combat medic, part of a rapid response team sent to rescue injured from a besieged outpost. The wreck had flung gear everywhere inside the cabin, but her medical kit remained secured to her vest. She inspected her team members one by one, already knowing their fate, but needing to be certain. The pilot and co-pilot were plainly gone, their seats crushed by hitting a large rock during the descent. The crew chief sagged in his gunner's spot, his neck bent at an unnatural angle. Sergeant Marcus Webb, her team's leader, had been partly thrown out through the ripped fuselage. No heart. Specialist Danny Ortega was trapped beneath gear, his eyes open but vacant. Private First Class Sarah Chen's body remained buckled in, blood gathering beneath her seat. Cararissa was truly alone. 6 souls on this aircraft, and she was the sole survivor. She heard sounds outside, faint at first, then steadily nearing. Not English, but the local tongue she'd been told about. Hostile fighters were already closing in on the crash site, drawn by the column of smoke climbing like a signal fire. With her right hand, the one still capable, she reached for her medical pack and took out a bandage to stop bleeding. Her left arm bled constantly from the complex break. Not a major artery, but enough to claim her life within an hour if unchecked. She secured the tourniquet above the wound, tightening it fiercely with her teeth and her good hand. The pain surged to a peak, causing dark spots to swim in her sight, but the flow of blood lessened to a slow ooze. The voices grew sharp. She could distinguish footsteps crunching on rubble, people calling out as they encircled the crash site. Cararissa made up her mind. She could not hold this spot. The helicopter was a death trap. She had to escape. Using her strong arm and capable leg, she pulled herself towards the ripped fuselage. She seized Webb's M4, an automatic rifle with an almost full clip, and took 2 extra magazines from his gear. She claimed his radio, water and sidearm. From Chen she recovered more bullets and a smoke device. From the crew chief she got the survival gear. Then she forced her way through the jagged metal and fell into the thick brush beyond. Agony shot through her leg as she hit the ground, but she fought it back and began to crawl, using her good arm and leg to pull herself deeper into the dense plants. She had covered perhaps 50 meters when the first enemy soldiers arrived at the helicopter. Through openings in the foliage, she observed their advance. 8 of them, carrying AK-style rifles, moved with self-assurance. They scoured the wreckage carefully, checking for survivors, taking equipment. It took all her strength not to attack them. 8 enemies wounded and with few bullets. The numbers didn't add up, but they didn't leave. 2 fighters started arranging the others to form a cordon around the crash site. They were preparing a trap, waiting for rescue teams, which meant Cararissa had to go. She needed to put distance between them. She started crawling, moving slowly to avoid making any clear signs. She had gone 200 meters when she heard a cry. One of the fighters had seen her blood mark. Cararissa ducked behind a tree as a hail of gunfire erupted. Bullets ripped through the leaves where she had just been. She raised Webb's M4, steadying it against the tree, and waited. The fighter burst through the bushes, his gun raised. Cararissa allowed him to come within 10 meters before she fired. 3 precise bursts, a total of 9 shots. The fighter fell, his AK clanging against stones. More yells. The remaining enemy soldiers were reacting, trying to encircle her. Cararissa checked her bullets. 20 rounds in her rifle now plus 2 extra clips of 30 each, 80 rounds in all, against 7 or 8 foes who knew this area. She took out the smoke grenade, activated it, and tossed it towards the sound of their voices. Thick gray smoke bellowed, hiding her. She pushed herself upright and began to move. Her M4 was gripped in her right hand. Her left arm hung limp, bound in rough dress. She moved with a limping, stumbling run that sent pain through her leg, yet she made progress. Behind her the enemy soldiers yelled commands, organizing their hunt. They understood she was hurt, knew she couldn't be far. Cararissa pressed on through a small riverbed, up a rocky incline that left crimson handprints on boulders, into dense woods where thick plants offered cover. She discovered a natural hollow hidden by fallen logs. It wasn't ideal, but it could be defended. She dropped into the spot and instantly started making it better, arranging branches to hide herself while creating openings to shoot from. The enemy was still looking, but they had lost her tracks at the stream. She could hear them fanning out, but they weren't near enough to pose an instant danger. She inspected her wounds. The tourniquet on her left arm required tightening. She eased it a bit, allowing some blood to pass while keeping pressure. The arm was badly swollen, bits of bone visible through the ripped skin. Her leg was more serious. Each shift sent agony spreading from her knee to her hip. Clearly, torn ligaments. She made a brace for it using sticks and rope, holding the joint still. Gear check. Webb's M4 with 80 rounds. His Beretta M9 with 15 rounds and 1 in the barrel. 1 smoke bomb. Her medic bag with few items. 2 water bottles. A basic survival kit. Not a lot, but enough. The sun was going down. Cararissa took out the radio and checked it. It had made. She pulled out the antenna and tuned to the emergency channel. But she didn't speak. Not yet. Enemy troops could pinpoint radio signals. She got ready to wait for nightfall, saving energy, listening to how the enemy searched. Night arrived. The fighters made camp near the wreck, putting out guard. Cararissa counted at least 12 now. More soldiers had come. She waited until 2 in the morning when people are least watchful. Then she pressed her radio button. Any station, this is Vanguard 23. I am hurt and cannot move at grid. November Kilo 74. I need to be picked up now. Over. Static replied. Then, Vanguard 23. This is Reaper 6. Confirm Hotel Victor 37. Someone had heard her. Confirmation received. Hotel Victor 37. Reaper 16. I've been alone for 18 hours. My team is lost. I'm wounded in the leg and left arm. I have few bullets, and enemy soldiers are nearing my spot. The answer came. Vanguard 23. We are coming for you. Stay put and keep off the radio unless it's an emergency. We'll be there in 2 hours. 2 hours. Cararissa glanced at her timepiece. 2:50. If they could reach her by 4:15, it would still be dark. For the first time since the crash, Cararissa Bennett felt a spark of hope. Staff Sergeant Mike Hendricks moved through the night like a hunter. Behind him his 4-person scout team kept his rhythm. Corporal Jake Morrison led the way. Lance Corporal Tommy Diaz watched their back, and Navy Corpsman Ray Valdez stayed in the center. They had covered 12 kilometers in 90 minutes, moving swiftly through ground where danger could lurk in every shadow. Reaper 16, this is Overwatch, the radio hissed. Be aware, we cannot approve pickup from your current spot. We suggest you finish your main task and return to base. Hendricks had predicted this. Overwatch, Reaper 16, understood. Be advised, we are already engaged. We'll report once the package is safe. Reaper 16, you are not cleared. Hendricks changed channels, cutting off the message. He would face the results later. Morrison's hand rose. The team stopped dead. Through night vision, Hendricks spotted 2 enemy guards on higher ground. Hendricks gestured Morrison and Diaz forward. The 2 Marines moved like ghosts. The takedowns were quiet. Both guards fell without a sound. Morrison and Diaz pulled the bodies into hiding and gave the all-clear signal. By 3:45 in the morning, they reached the location. The crash site was visible 300 meters east, encircled by a dozen enemy soldiers, but Cararissa's spot was separate, tucked away in ground that gave natural cover. Hendricks pressed his radio. Vanguard 23, Reaper 16, is at meeting point Alpha. Flash green light for clear identification. A quick blink of green light from 50 meters ahead. An infrared beacon. Got her, Morrison breathed. They moved with care. When they arrived at her hiding place, Hendricks nearly walked past her. Superb camouflage work. Then he saw a woman, in her mid-20s, dark hair tangled with blood, left arm wrapped in blood-soaked cloth, in a brace, right leg similarly braced, but her eyes were sharp and the M4 in her good hand was aimed at Morrison, until she knew they were allies. Took you long enough, Cararissa said, her voice firm. I thought you might have gotten lost. Valdez stepped forward. Let me check those wounds. Left arm complex fracture, right leg likely MCL tear. Cararissa reported like a doctor. I've put on bandages and brace. I can move but not quickly. And we have 12 enemies at the crash site ready to ambush anyone who searches. Hendricks was already impressed. How are your bullets? 68 rounds of 56, 16 rounds of 9mm. 1 smoke grenade. Good. You'll need them. Hendricks unfolded his map. We have 3 kilometers to our pickup point. The enemy is between us and there. We're fighting our way out. Morrison looked over the crash site. Count 12 hostiles, 3 on the edge, 9 in the middle, a PKM machine gun and a rocket launcher. They're waiting for a rescue aircraft, Cararissa stated. Probably have portable missile launchers. Send a helicopter to this spot, and they'll shoot it down, which is why we're walking out, Hendricks declared. Valdez, make sure she's stable. We leave in 5. Valdez moved fast, checking her bandages and tightening her braces. He offered pain medicine, but she said no. Need to stay clear-headed. I can take it. But when Valdez helped Cararissa stand, her leg buckled. Only his quick catch stopped her from falling. All right, maybe I do need a bit of help, Cararissa conceded. Morrison shifted to her other side. Between the two of them, they held her up. Normal advance. Guns ready, Hendricks commanded. I'm in front. Diaz watches our back. We move silently until we must fight. Then we move fast and hard. Any questions? No one spoke. Let's bring our girl back. They traveled 500 meters before the enemy spotted. A patrol approached from the north. 4 soldiers walking with easy assurance. Hendricks saw them first and gave the signal to stop. The team dropped to the ground, Carissa stifling a gasp as Morrison and Valdez carefully lowered her. The patrol would pass within 20 meters. One soldier tripped, his AK rifle clanging against a rock with a metallic ring that echoed through the night. The soldier froze, looking around, his eyes swept over the American's hidden spot. For 3 brief moments, no one stirred. Then the soldier's eyes fixed on Morrison, his mouth opened to cry out. Hendricks shot first. A precise 2-round burst brought the soldier down. Morrison and Diaz opened fire at the same time. The whole patrol was silenced in less than 3 seconds. Move! Move! Hendricks whispered sharply. Their cover was gone. Morrison and Valdez lifted Cararissa and began moving swiftly. Despite her wounds, Carissa kept her M4 raised, checking her sides. Behind them, cries burst from the crash site. Beams of light cut through the trees. The sound of AK-47s loading echoed in the darkness. Enemy at the back, Diaz yelled. He knelt and started shooting. Many enemies approaching quickly. Hendricks turned, joining the firefight. Through night vision he saw at least 8 enemy soldiers coming closer, firing as they advanced. Valdez, keep her moving, Hendricks commanded. Morrison, go with them. Diaz and I will hold these guys off. Morrison picked Cararissa up in a fireman's carry and ran. Valdez took the lead. Hendricks and Diaz retreated in stages, one moving while the other shot to cover. The enemy was stubborn, pressing on despite losing men. Automatic gunfire ripped across the tree near Hendricks's head, showering him with wood. He dove to a new spot and fired at the shooter, taking him down with a headshot from 40 meters. We have to get away, Diaz yelled. They're moving around our left. Hendricks saw. The enemy aimed to surround their location. Go back to Morrison's spot. Use smoke and move. Diaz deployed a smoke device that released thick white fog, hiding their retreat. Both Marines sprinted towards Morrison and Valdez. They found them in a shallow ditch. Morrison frantically tried to contact headquarters while Valdez helped Cararissa prepare to fire. No luck with the radio, Morrison reported. Something's blocking signals. They have electronic warfare gear, Cararissa explained. I couldn't call out before. We're completely alone. Enemy shots were nearing. Bullets whistled overhead and struck the ditch walls. Hendricks judged 5 shooters plus 1 injured person against at least 15 enemies who knew the land outnumbered 3-1 with no help. They needed a new plan. How much C4 do we have? Hendricks asked. Morrison checked his bag. 2 blocks with remote triggers. A thought sparked. Risky. Perhaps wild, but better than just waiting to be overrun. Give me 1 block, he said. Morrison, you're in charge. Get everyone moving towards pickup point Bravo, 2 kilometers southeast. I'll pull the enemy away and meet you there. Staff Sergeant, that's a death wish. That's an order, Corporal. No discussion. Your mission is the most vital, getting her out. I'll buy you time. Go now. Before Hendricks could depart, Cararissa seized his arm. Whatever your plan, make it matter. I didn't survive a helicopter crash, only to see brave Marines die saving me. Ma'am, I don't intend to die today, Hendricks stated. But I do intend to make these guys regret chasing us. He took the C4 and left. Behind him, Morrison managed their retreat. Hendricks moved in the opposite direction, creating noise, leaving a clear path to follow. The enemy's gunfire changed direction. Aiming to follow him, he ran 300 meters, then found it a tight passage where the land forced movement through a natural channel. A perfect ambush spot. Hendricks placed the C4 in the middle of the passage, set the trigger to go off under pressure, and covered it with soil and leaves. Then he ran another 100 meters and took up a shooting spot with a clear view of the area. The enemy came through in a loose line. Hendricks counted 12, more than he had hoped, meaning Morrison's team would have fewer chasing them. He allowed them to enter the kill zone, waiting until the most possible were within the explosion range. Then he shot the detonator. The blast was huge. A roaring ball of orange flame lit up the night for 3 seconds. The shockwave washed over Hendricks's position 100 meters away. Trees lay flat. The sound echoed across the valley like thunder. When the smoke lifted, 8 fighters lay still, spread across the kill zone. The remaining 4 were confused and scattered. He didn't hesitate. He ran, using the confusion to create space between himself and his pursuers, heading southeast towards the pickup point. Behind him, the enemy started to reorganize. They were furious now. Hendricks intended to use their anger against them. Morrison's team moved faster without Hendricks pulling enemy fire. But Cararissa still slowed them. Despite her strong will, her wounds and loss of blood were wearing her down. She stumbled with every few steps. Contact! Diaz suddenly cried. 3 enemy soldiers appeared ahead, a group moving to their side. Morrison and Valdez lowered Cararissa into cover and opened fire. The distance was short, under 30 meters. Cararissa, even injured, raised her M4 and targeted the soldier furthest left. Her shots were precise despite shooting with one hand, taking down the enemy. The other 2 fell under Morrison and Valdez's gunfire. The fight lasted less than 5 seconds. "We must keep going," Morrison stated. But when he turned, Cararissa was fading. The quick gun battle had raised her heart rate, and blood seeped through her dressings. "She's going into shock," Valdez warned, checking her pulse. "We need to pause and steady her, or she won't survive. We halt here, we die here." Morrison countered. "If she halts here, she dies here." Valdez shot back. Just then they heard the clear crack of a muffled rifle in the distance. Hendricks was still fighting, still gaining them time. "Form a defensive circle," Morrison decided. "Valdez, you have 5 minutes. Diaz, cover our rear. I'll watch our front." Valdez brought out medical gear and worked quickly, adjusting the bandage, giving IV fluids to fight shock, injecting medicine. Morrison and Diaz scanned the darkness through night vision. Guns were ready. Distant shooting went on. Single shots from Hendricks, met by many AK-47s. A moving gunfight, never still. "He's outnumbered at least 10-1, Diaz noted. "He'll keep going for as long as we need him to," Morrison stated firmly. "That's just how he is." Cararissa's eyes gently opened as the IV fluids began to work. She looked at Valdez with unexpected focus. "How much more distance?" she asked. "Until we're picked up. Maybe 1.5 kilometers if we hurry." "Then let's hurry." Cararissa tried to sit up, gasped from the pain, but pressed on. "Your staff sergeant is out there earning us time. We won't waste it resting." Morrison helped her rise, amazed by her resolve. "You heard her. Let's go." They pushed ahead. Cararissa walked between Morrison and Valdez, forcing herself to stay awake through sheer strength of will. Diaz watched their back. The pickup spot was a small open area marked as a possible helicopter landing zone. When they got there, Morrison set up watch while Valdez tried to contact headquarters. The signal blocking was gone. They had moved past its reach. Valdez's message got through. "Overwatch. This is Reaper 6. We are at pickup point Bravo with an injured ally. We need air support and medical evacuation immediately. Over." A tense silence. Then the reply. "Reaper 16 Bravo. Overwatch confirms you have Vanguard 20. Yes. She's hurt but stable. We also have one Marine apart, fighting enemy soldiers about 1 kilometer northwest. Another silence. Understood. Attack aircraft are headed your way. Expected arrival time 12 minutes. Medical transport is 15 minutes behind them. Can you hold your ground? Morrison looked at his team. 3 Marines, 1 wounded soldier low on bullets, with an unknown number of enemies in the dark. We'll hold, he told the radio. Tell them to rush. The 12 minutes felt endless. Morrison placed his team in a protective circle around Cararissa, who despite her wounds kept her M4 ready in her good hand. Every shadow seemed like an enemy. Every noise could signal an attack. Movement, 2 o'clock, Diaz whispered, his gun pointing towards the edge of the tree. Morrison aimed his rifle to cover the same area. Through his night vision, he saw shapes moving through the woods. They weren't trying to be quiet. They were searching, calling out to each other. Don't shoot unless they see us. Morrison ordered softly. We don't want to give away where we are if it's not necessary. The enemy group came nearer. 6 fighters, guns ready, scanning the forest. They were perhaps 50 meters away and getting closer. Cararissa's finger tensed on her trigger. Despite the IV still in her arm, despite the agony she must have felt, her weapon was steady. One of the enemy soldiers stopped, looking directly towards their spot. He raised his hand, telling the others to pause. They've seen us, Valdez whispered. The fighter's mouth opened, likely to yell a warning. Morrison shot first. A 3-round burst took down the fighter before he could make a sound, but the damage was done. The other 5 fighters scattered for cover and started shooting back. Muzzle flashes lit up the dark. Bullets whizzed through the air and struck trees around the Americans' position. Morrison, Valdez and Diaz shot back with careful aim. Each Marine defended his assigned area. Cararissa fired at targets with her M4, releasing short bursts, even though she had to shoot with one hand. One enemy soldier who tried to creep around their side fell to her precise shots. Enemy left, Diaz called out. More hostile fighters were arriving. Pulled by the sound of the fight, what started as 6 enemies was now 10, then 12. They're circling us, Valdez yelled over the rising noise of gunfire. Morrison knew they couldn't stay here much longer. They were outnumbered, nearly out of bullets, and the enemy was planning a full attack on their defenses. Then he heard it. The powerful sound of jet engines. Get down, Morrison yelled. Attack planes coming. F-18 Super Hornets swooped in low and fast, their targeting computers already locked onto enemy spots from Morrison's tracking signal. The 20mm cannons blasted with deadly accuracy, sweeping across the enemy positions among the trees. The noise was deafening, a quick roaring thunder that lasted several seconds, turning the forest into a zone of destruction. When the jets climbed and looped, all enemy shooting had stopped. The fighters who had been closing in on the American team were gone, wiped out by powerful air support. Dagger 11, Reaper 16 Bravo. Morrison radioed. Great hits, area is clear, you just saved us. Our pleasure, Reaper. Your transport is 2 minutes away. Suggest you light a smoke signal for the helicopter. Morrison took out a smoke grenade and tossed it into the open space. Purple smoke rose high, marking the landing spot for the arriving medical chopper. Hendricks was on his last magazine when he heard the jets above. He activated his infrared light, showing his location. Reaper 16, this is Dagger 11. A voice crackled. We see your light, marking enemy positions now. Dagger 11, be aware. Allies are 1 kilometer southeast at Pickup Point Bravo. Everything northwest is hostile. Extreme danger. Understood, Reaper. Stay low. The jets began their attack. Hendricks pressed himself into the earth, as 20mm cannon fire ripped through the forest with pinpoint accuracy. The gunfire lasted 3 seconds, but felt like forever. When the jets climbed away, the forest fell silent. No shots back, no movement. The enemy group chasing Hendricks was gone. Dagger 11, Reaper 16, good hits. Area is clear. Copy, Reaper. Medical transport is at your meeting spot. Get moving. Hendricks sprinted towards the pickup point, covering the kilometer in what felt like record speed despite his fatigue. When he burst into the clearing, Morrison had his rifle aimed at the entrance, then eased it when he recognized Hendricks. "Good to see you, Staff Sergeant," Morrison said with a sigh of relief. "Good to be seen, Corp." Hendricks went to where Cararissa sat leaning against a tree. Valdez checking her pulse. "How is our patient?" "Still breathing," Cararissa replied with a faint smile. "Thanks to your team, thanks to you for not quitting," Hendricks corrected. "You kept fighting when most others would have given up. That's what saved you." The thumping sound of helicopter blades broke the night's quiet. A Blackhawk appeared above the treetops, dropping fast. Door gunners scanned the area while medical staff got ready for the injured. Morrison and Valdez carried Cararissa to the aircraft and passed her up to the flight medics. She glanced back at the Marines who had risked everything. "Thank you," she said, barely heard over the rotors. "I owe you my life." "You don't owe us a thing," Hendricks shouted back. "You're one of us. We never leave our own behind." The helicopter rose, tilting sharply as it climbed into the air. Hendricks watched it vanish into the darkness, taking Cararissa Bennett to safety. A second helicopter landed moments later to pick up the scout team as they boarded. Morrison looked at Hendricks. "Do you think we'll get in trouble for ignoring orders?" Hendricks smiled. "Definitely, but it was worth it." 2 weeks later, Cararissa Bennett rested in a hospital bed at Lantal Regional Medical Center in Germany, her left arm in a cast from hand to shoulder, her right leg propped up and bandaged. The complex break had needed major surgery with metal pins and plate. The torn ligaments meant months of recovery exercises. But she was alive. The door opened and Staff Sergeant Mike Hendricks walked in, followed by his scout team. All 5 Marines wore their formal uniforms. "We heard you were awake," Hendricks said. "Thought we'd visit." "I heard you guys got into serious trouble for coming to get me," Cararissa responded. "How bad?" Morrison chuckled. "Let's just say we've been volunteered for some extra tasks. But the commanding officer also nominated us for awards, so it balances out." "You shouldn't have risked it," Cararissa said, though her voice lacked real firmness. "Chasing one hurt medic when you had a main task." "You're not just one hurt medic," Valdez cut in strongly. "You're a combat medic who survived a helicopter crash, treated your own wounds while being shot at, avoided enemy forces for 18 hours while injured, and still gave cover fire during the rescue. That makes you worth saving." "Besides," Diaz added, "what kind of Marines would we be if we left someone behind just because it was a bit inconvenient?" Hendricks stepped closer and placed something on her bedside table. "A special coin from the Marine Recon Battalion. The team voted," he said. "We want you to have this. You might not be a Marine, but you have the spirit of one, and if you ever need anything at all, you know where to find us." Cararissa picked up the coin with her good hand, feeling its weight. "Thank you," she murmured. "For everything, thank you," Hendricks answered. "For not giving up, for staying in the fight, for showing us why we do what we do." After the Marines left, Cararissa sat alone, holding the coin, thinking about everything. The crash that should have ended her life. The long hours alone and hurt in enemy land. The moment she heard that radio call promising someone was coming, she thought about the decision Hendricks had made to put his whole team at risk. To go against orders. To do what was right instead of what was safe. The choice that saved her life, and she made a promise. When she healed, when she returned to duty, she would pass that kindness on. She would be the kind of soldier who never left anyone behind, who took the necessary chances to bring comrades home, because that's what true warriors do. They stand up for each other. They give up things for each other. They never ever abandoned each other, even when the chances were impossible, even when commanders said no, even when it would have been simpler to walk away. Some debts can never be fully paid, but Cararissa Bennett would spend the rest of her career striving to do so. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe for more inspiring stories daily.